Okay, I'm gonna go into this early on. I was gonna hold off on this video, but we're gonna get into the hoarding aspect and the debt aspect of this. Now, it's extremely important to realize, and you might not even realize it yourself, that when you start collecting stuff, um, you might get a bit of a mentality of, oh, I must have that, must have that, must have that, must have that, and you spend a lot of money. All right, now one of the dangers is getting in debt. Of course, I've known people who've gotten in debt collecting stuff, and it's gotten them in a whole mess of trouble, and they end up having to sell parts of their collections and stuff. So that's one of those things you kind of got to look out for. Set yourself those limits and stuff. Keep those limits in mind. But one of the big dangers, and my dad fell into this, is hoarding. Okay, you start collecting so much and so much. Like I do long term. He was doing long term, but then he was doing short term, and his got out of control because he kept seeing things that he wanted to get, and he wasn't selling anything else. So just things pile up and pile up and pile up and pile up. Now the dangers of that is you stack things on top of one another, they start damaging each other, and then why are you collecting? You're damaging collectibles with other collectibles. It makes no sense. But some people, it's just wired in their brains where they can't help but start doing that hoarding and stuff. So it's really important if you have hoarding, like a hoarding mentality at all. Be really careful of what you're collecting, and just keep that in mind and try to keep it in check. If you set yourself a certain limit of like certain space or a certain amount of items, stick to it. Maybe an exception, maybe a few more extra stuff or a little bit more space, but you got to watch those compromises. There's always going to be room for compromise, but you always have to be careful, watch those limits, because hoarding is no joke. It can get out of hand, and then you have so much stuff you just don't know how to get rid of it. And then you'll go back and you're like, yeah, I got all these great collectibles and stuff, and you go back and look and they were stored perfectly and everything, but then you realize you had so much stuff on top of other stuff, things got damaged. So you literally invested in stuff and it got damaged, and where you at now? So hoarding is extremely important to watch, and if you know anybody who's collecting, keep that in mind. You might want to speak up to them if you realize that they're starting to hoard, and especially people who are going in debt. That's I've known quite a few, and it's really really sad that it had to happen. But some people just, they see something, they gotta have it, they gotta have it, they gotta have it. But set yourself those limits and stuff. Try to stay out of debt, and do not become a hoarder. And I might get a little more into some of that stuff later on, and kind of watch out what to watch for when you realize, because I know I came close to being a hoarder, but I realized it. At first I didn't realize it, and then I realized it after seeing my dad, and I was like, okay, man, I need to stop and like slow myself down. So I have slowed down collecting quite a bit, and it's just one of those things, one of the dangers of collecting, should I say. Shouldn't be a danger, but it's one of those dangers.